Hi, my name is Kay Sutha. I am a business strategist and I will be your host. In this podcast, I'll be getting raw, real, and relentless whilst interviewing successful entrepreneurs from all over the world who specialize in different aspects of business. We'll cover the 5 main pillars of business, which are sales, marketing, finance, operations, and leadership, but not forgetting mindset, live and digital events, plus much, much more. You'll gain insights, tips and tricks, and discover jaw-dropping actionable steps that you'll be able to put in place for your business right away. Guys, this is our second red carpet guest, and I'm so excited because I have known this person for many years. He has coached me, he has mentored me. In fact, he still does it today, and I've learned so much from him over the years. Plus, he has sold multi-millions of dollars of products and services from stages all over the planet, making the move to digital stages in 2009. Ken is also the creator of the hybrid event, introducing online components to physical events, a revolutionary idea years ahead of its time. He's most famously known as a producer of Opportunitython, the world record-setting 28 and a half hours live marathon broadcast that featured over, get this guys, 55 of the world's leading authorities on business, mindset, and success. Ken's most proud of his fast-track clients who have quickly produced profitable 5-figure events in just a few short weeks, guys. That's right. Over the past 16 years, Ken has produced trend-setting digital events, including World Love Week, which focused on building businesses as a force of good, the World Info Mastery Summit, the World Speaker Summit, the World Authors Conference, and many, many more. It's my pleasure to bring you the world's leading digital event profitability strategist, Mr. Ken Krell. Oh my goodness, Ken. Thank you for coming to the podcast. There is so much.
This guy? I want to hear this guy. Who is he? Who is this person? Oh my God.
Ken, this is all you. This is why I have been following you around for years, learning from you side by side on stages, right? About sales, about events. And that is why I had to bring you on the podcast. There's so much you have to share. But before we get into that, Ken, I want to ask you, I want you to share with our listeners today, what transitioned you from what you were doing before to what you're doing now? What was that push?
It's a good question. I went digital back when I was living in Atlanta, and it just seemed a logical progression. I was speaking on stages, selling real estate stuff for the Russ Whitney people forever. Right. And when I left there, I needed a way of getting back on stages. And the best way I knew how at that time, I was like, go do teleseminars. And we did some of that, but then I went straight into webinars, which was the first real foray into digital. And it was really just out of necessity. It was just easier to run a webinar and to leverage other people's lists and other people's gravitas, if you will. And that's what I did. So it wasn't planned that way. It just sort of turned out that way because I was used to being on stages everywhere. And I haven't shrunk from that. I've done stages, as you know, because we met in Kuala Lumpur.
That's right.
When we were working together for the first time. So I've done physical and then digital, and digital has been great for me, particularly living overseas, living in Thailand as I was when we met. Digital is like the best way to talk to an American audience without having to fly 24 hours and be jet lagged for a week. So it just sort of became natural. And then, of course, when things shifted a few years ago, that's a nice way of saying when the world came to an end for most speakers, I was already in that space. So it was really easy just to make that conversion and make that shift. A lot of people thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, just get on freaking Zoom for God's sakes. It's easy.
Right. And I love that because I guess because you were doing this or you were online for many years before, it would just became, it was like the natural progression, especially when the pandemic happened. It was like, well, that's the way to go. That's the way to do this. And all of a sudden, everyone that was doing live events were now doing digital events, right? And trying to figure out how they're going to transition.
They were freaking out. They were so, you know, and the thing that's so, I won't use the word funny about it, was that when I created my live conference TV brand back in, was it 2018 or 20, something like that. The idea was to do this hybrid thing, that people at their live events would put on a second show, basically, that when the stage was done, physical stage was done, during the breaks and lunch and so on, we would have a host on site managing the live stream, so that the camera wouldn't just get turned off, it would turn into something else. And either our messaging wasn't right, or the timing wasn't right, whatever, or both, but nobody wanted to pay the extra money, even though I could show them the benefit of it, because it wasn't proven yet. And they were like, I had Russell Brunson people telling us, oh, they must come in person to the experience of Funnel Hacking Live. Little did they know that they would make more money with Funnel Hacking Live digital than they would ever do physical, because they'd have the millions of dollars of expense at the hotels, and they didn't have all the stuff to go with it, and to manage the teams and the security and the food. And I mean, good Lord, you know, they had a little studio. They did this great thing. They sold gazillions of dollars, right? Because digital converts, I'm going to tell you, better than physical. And you know this because you've seen it. Well, you know this. You know, you've worked with me on these events, and the reason is simple. We can be super intimate with people, you know, and yeah. And I mean, you and I are on Zoom. You're in the UK and I'm in Sydney, Australia. We couldn't be further apart, yet we're just like we're next door. And we have so many people that we know, that we work with, that we've never physically met, but we're like buddies.
Right.
You know, it's kind of fascinating. But also, you've seen me do this with audiences. You know, I'll say like, come here. And they go right to the camera. You know, I'm sitting on a bar, so I can't do this real well. But typically, I like them to go, come here, let's talk. You know, right to the camera. And I got eyeball to eyeball with people, and you can't do that in a physical event. You know, because if you have 500 people in the room or 5,000 people in the room, they're watching the jumbotron up there. They're not like this. But I'm intimate with you, and you know, I see people in their home or I see their digital background or whatever, and I tease them because usually they're lighting with a Zoom background. Their lighting is so bad that they have web fingers that like creatures for the Black Lagoon, you know, or I'll call them out when their kid shows up on screen, or their husband or their cat walks across. I love all that stuff, right? And it means that they're seen. They know that they're seen. So there's much more intimacy there.
That's really interesting you say that, because we have on one hand a group of people that would say that you lose connection doing things digital, but you're saying no, that's not the case.
Yeah, I think we have more of a connection.
Wow.
I think we have a much tighter connection. Because when you think about it, I can call you out on personal stuff. Number one, you're not likely to see me presenting with the T-shirt, you know, on a stage. Yeah. Well, and you know, I don't think you've ever seen me present with a T-shirt, actually, except when we were in Bali. I was doing shorts and a T-shirt. That the one day we were, because it was Bali, for goodness sake.
Right, exactly.
But other than that, you know, I start out with a sport coat. Don't take it off, but there's a shirt on below, right? And well, yeah, there's always a shirt on below. But I mean, you know, there's a dress shirt on below, you know. But in digital, we can be more casual, right? And we see the audience being casual. So already there's a level of intimacy based on that. But when I see your background and I can call somebody out and I can say, listen, you know, Mario, can I see your chin, please? You know, and I ask them to adjust their cameras and stuff, you know, or Betsy, you're gorgeous, but could you turn the lights on so I can actually see you? You know, they know that they're seen, and that level of intimacy you wouldn't see in a ballroom. No. That wouldn't happen. I wouldn't call someone out for that, you know, at all. And so, and some people, yeah, they're like, I won't put the camera on. And I'm like, oh yes, you will if you're in my room, because I'll call them out on that. Right. You know, we run an event called the Digital Dinner Party, and the rules are cameras on, mics are on, or get the hell out. You know, and I'm serious. And we also close the doors after 10 minutes, like at a Broadway show, you know, or in a movie. Nope, it's done.
Yeah, I've been to those digital parties, and they are amazing, right? Like the connection that you get with people, the things that actually come out, right? And the questions you ask, people haven't even thought about. There was one, I remember one dinner party where you asked a question, and I think it was something along the lines of what you value your products or your service. I think it was something along those lines.
Yep.
And what people got from that, the understanding originally was not the question you were asking. Do you want to go into a little bit more in depth about that particular question?
It's kind of a trademark trick question, not even a trick question, but it tricks people up because people don't recognize the value of the impact that they make on their clients.
Right.
And so I asked them, if you were working with your ideal client for a year and you shared your wisdom with them and they implemented it, what would they walk away with at the end of the year in terms of a tangible value? Now, most people go, but I teach people about relationships. So I talk about health, and those are technically intangible. And my response is, time out. If you teach people how to have better relationships, can you protect someone from getting a divorce in a marriage that might be rocky? Well, yeah. So what's the cost of a divorce? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Already we got savings. What's the cost of a divorce? Potentially health considerations like a stroke or a heart attack or something like that, because it does mess up your health. What's the effect of a relationship on getting a promotion at your job if you're in a job, or having employees that are more effective because you can relate to them better? All those things have a tangible element to them. So people that are dealing with things that are, you might want to consider soft skills, there's massive value. When they can get to that point, it allows them to say, wait a minute, I'm a lot more valuable than I think. And then they're less likely to undercharge. They're still going to undercharge until I work with them. And you see me do this with people. They come into my Pride event and it's like, well, yeah, I had one woman, her high price program was $49. And remember her? And by the time it was over, she was up to 900. That was an 18x increase. Now she's like at 9,000 because we're still working on her, but to take her from $49 to 900, which still wasn't enough, was massive for this young lady. So my objective is to have people see themselves in a much bigger way so that they have the confidence to make an offer that accurately reflects on their value. Right. And that's something you and I have worked on together too. It's so important because we all have so much to give, and it's really easy to underestimate that.
Right.
So,
do you know what's really funny, Ken, is that we haven't really dived into knowing more about what you do, and already you've given so many golden nuggets. This is why, guys, this is why I keep Ken with me by my side constantly, because there's so much knowledge and experience that he has that you can just totally soak it up. So Ken, I want to ask you something. Right? I heard. Right.
It's all not true. I didn't do it. I promise. It wasn't me.
I know that you have the ability, right, to get to the heart of what's really needed and what needs to be done, right? That is your special ability. Now, tell us a little bit more on how you go about doing this and how you notice what needs to be done, because when we're in it ourselves, we don't realize what needs to be done and what has to happen.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm glad you read that stuff. Wait till you read the rest of it. So here's the thing. So much of what we do becomes natural if you've done it for a long time. Wax on, wax off. If you watch The Karate Kid, which is a movie you should watch just because of that one little piece.
Right.
Because when you start doing things on autopilot, it's easy to do things on autopilot. You don't have to think anymore. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you're on the bike, you can ride a bike forever. Well, at least I expect you can. I haven't forgotten that yet. So I've been doing this for 40 plus years. Yeah. And when you're right about this, when you're in the middle of the storm, you can't see your way out of it typically. When you're in the middle of the jar, you can't read the label, people will say, right? So just as I can see what's going on for you clear as day, it's like, oh yeah, okay, gotcha. You can see it for me too in most cases. A lot of that's just natural. It really is, if you get out of your own head. So while I would say that one of my great abilities is to get to the heart of the matter and take something super complex and make it simple. And maybe that's because I'm a simpleton. I don't know. I mean, I can confuse things too. Don't get me wrong. But I like to take people out of the swirling madness. And we call that batshit crazy. That's a technical term.
Right.
I like taking out a batshit crazy and turn that down to like, let's notch it down a little bit to just to some semblance of calmness, because at the end of the day, most of it's just drama, and it doesn't need to be. You know, we tend to make things so much more complicated than they need to be. So I like to teach the basics. I like to keep people in basic mode. I mean, right now you're looking at, this is my big, expensive, multi-million-dollar set, right? And it's nighttime here. So we have this is the nighttime set. It's also the daytime set. 2 palm trees, a picture behind me that was given to me by a mutual friend of ours. 2 lights that light me up from the front. And usually I have overheads on. I forgot to put the overheads on. And that's it. I'm using a wired mic as opposed to my wireless today, just because it's here and it's easy. And the only upgrade I have anything over standard stuff is I got a better camera than the MacBook Pro camera. But you don't, I'm going to segue into this. You don't need to have all massive amounts of technology to run a digital event and make all sorts of money. People get wrapped up in that drama too. Oh, I must have all this. No, you don't. You have everything you need. And the proof of the pudding came out a few months ago when I was producing an event, and you were with me for that event, actually. Day 3 in the morning of that event, my Mac, something was wrong with the power supply. Yeah. And and I woke up, and I always keep mine plugged in, always, so that it's always fully charged.
Right.
Get up in the morning on day 3, it says 37%. Oh my God. I'm like, this ain't going to work. And I tried every plug, every this, every that. Maybe it was the power supply, whatever it was. I tried everything. It was going nowhere. I ended up in the first section of the morning, finishing it up, producing it on my iPhone. I broadcast from my iPhone.
Yeah, I remember that. And I was like, how the hell is Ken going to have all these people on Zoom presenting using just an iPhone? Like, that's impossible. But you totally made it work.
It was easy.
And it was like, well, you don't need to have all this complicated, $1,000 equipment to actually hold your own event online.
Yeah.
Right? And you proved it right there and then, which was amazing.
Yep. And it wasn't intentional. Now we're going to do it every time. We're not going to break my computer, but we're going to last event. We just said, I was tempted to like have it, fake it out like we did before, but instead I just came back from a break on the iPhone and said, guys, guess what? But here's the thing. Your audience is watching you. And we can go down every rabbit hole today that you want, but your audience is watching you. Mm-hmm. And if you get so wrapped up in the drama of, oh my God, my computer's down, I am so screwed. I was just laughing because it was like, I couldn't fix the computer. There's nothing I was going to do about it. I knew we'd have a solution. I wasn't concerned with that. I always have a producer for my big events who we work with. So I knew that she was holding the space along with my friend Casey was being my MC. So I didn't have to worry about that. I also knew that the audience was watching me. And if I'm teaching you how to produce events, the last thing you want to see that guy do is freak out that, oh my God, so I'm just laughing because I think, what the backup, I knew that the iPhone would work. I had no question about that. So all I do is I just plugged it in. I have all the adapters and everything. And we, now it didn't give me the same quality of, the screen size and everything else, but who cares? They weren't there for screen. They were there for content.
Yeah.
I was able to still deliver that content. And I know I converted better because they saw reality, and they were able to see that I'm coming from authenticity and, he can dance, baby, he can dance. And that makes so much difference. So I'll tell you, the first thing that I'll recommend to anybody is just be authentic, just come from who you are and what you do and what that source is for you. And if you're nervous, go, I'm going to tell you something. I get really nervous when I teach the story, but I'm going to share it with you anyway.
Okay.
Be real. But I'm not nervous with you now, but I'm saying if you felt that way, tell your audience, what that's happening. Now, by the way, if you see me grimacing right now, we were talking about this before we went live. My iPad is just like going bananas, and it keeps going on and off. And you're in the mirror, and the iPad's changing all over the place. It's crazy right now. But technology will do what technology does, and we can just dance with it. And people expect that now. So, how do you protect yourself from tech? Mm-hmm. Kind of simple. I have backups for everything. So I have backup internet. I bought a backup computer. Oh, yes, I did. But I could use the iPhone. I've still use the iPhone before. And I've taken also while I've taken the backup internet, which is a little portable thing I bought, which is faster than my home system, by the way.
Wow.
I've taken it to the park and I've shot stuff from the park with Zoom. Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So, you don't have to get wild and crazy and spend a lot of money to make a lot of money using online events at all. And when we remove that mystique and remove that fear to let people know that you really can do this without a lot of money, and you can upgrade when you want. I mean, I bought all sorts of other tools and toys. I got to tell you, I spent a lot of money on toys, but at the end of the day, none of that matters. You won't make any more money if you add all that stuff, because people aren't buying Hollywood. They're buying your heart. They're buying your knowledge, your wisdom. And that's why people, and by the way, that's why people love you, is because when they're with you, and like, for example, when you're in the coaching zone working with people,
right,
you're closing them on themselves.
Yeah.
You're giving them tools and strategies that change their lives. And people come back into the main room, which you don't always see, and they're like, Coach K was amazing. And I'm like,
awesome.
I know. And I'm like, I know, I told you.
Well, I've learned from the best, right, Ken?
Oh, listen to you. Yes, you have. But very, very modest about that. But that's important. It's giving that amount of value, right, to your audience, and they naturally will fall in love with you, and then they want to do more with you.
Yeah.
I was speaking to an audience of speakers early this morning, and so many speakers that have been trained in the conventional, traditional way have been trained, oh, you never sell from the stage. You get paid for presenting, you get paid for a keynote, and they would get rewarded for that. They would get their designations from the associations based on the number of keynotes that they did. And I'm like, I've worked for like 5 clients my entire life, one for like 10 years, one for what we would with that one company for, that shall remain nameless, for a few years, but one client for years. Why? Because we do well, because we make a difference, right? We make an impact. There was a point that I've just completely forgotten. By the way, I have no idea what the hell I was talking about, but I was trying to say to you. Oh, this is embarrassing. But that right there,
right,
is what will also endear an audience to you. It's because they're like, I've done that too. I've had that brain fart, and I'm like, who am I? And you make it work, and that makes a difference.
It does.
Because the audience is like, okay, I get it. Me too. I'm there. I did an event. You've heard the story before. I did an event years ago when I was working with Harv Eker, and it was either Fort Lauderdale or Denver. I forget which city, but I had a room of about 500 people in this conference center. And when Harv presents, he presents with a music stand in front of the room. So all of his notes are on a music stand in a loose leaf notebook.
Okay.
Now, I always thought that was terribly unprofessional.
Yeah.
I was like, if you're going to be up there, you should know your talk, especially if it's a 90-minute talk, and you should know your talk. So I was, because I've been doing this for such a long time, I'm like, really, dude, are you kidding me? But that's how Harv likes it to be done. And if I'm speaking for Harv and I'm working with him, he's a client, that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm up on stage doing this thing, and I'm like, I'm Mr. Dramatic, right? And my left arm hits the music stand.
Oh
everything goes flying in the air. The audience, just like you did, I look over at the papers kind of falling to the ground, all my notes.
Wow.
And I look back at the audience. I look at the papers on the ground. I look at the audience, and I said to them, bet you're glad it wasn't you. And they were hysterical. You think we closed? Oh yeah, we did. Because the elephant was in the room. It's like, what color would you like the elephant to be today, kids? Right. It was like, what are you going to do? And you have to make it fun, because if you go, oh shit, what am I going to do? And you freak out. If they, never let them see you sweat. There was that old commercial from years ago, but never let them see you sweat.
Right.
Let them be included in the, oh, this is messed up.
Oh, what you're saying is improvise, learn to improvise with really get messed up and things happen, right?
Get comfortable, get confident in knowing that you have what it takes, and that's critical. I was reading a story in a book called The 3-Minute Rule. I'm reading it right now. It's a great book about how to get your message dissected down to 3 minutes. Wow. And if you can do that, you can convert. Yeah, it's really important. to do that. Yeah. So great book, Brant something or other. I forget the guy's name. But anyway, he tells a story about, I think it was his father who was supposed to do this massive presentation, really important presentation. And while he was en route to this is long before faxes and emails and everything electronic. So he had all the stuff in the car, went into a diner for lunch or whatever. And either the car got stolen or everything got stolen out of the car. And all of his notes, his entire presentation, everything gone. Now, what the hell do you do? He was stuck on having to deliver the guts of what it was from his heart. And he converted like a son of a gun. Everyone was like, yeah, I want this. This is awesome. Because he wasn't wrapped up in Hollywood of what he should be saying. He was coming from what was essential to be said.
Do you know what? And you've mentioned that a couple of times now, and I want to point that out. You mentioned that people don't want the Hollywood. And it's funny, when people are creating their own digital events, they automatically assume it has to be Hollywood. This is what people want. It's got to look fantastic. You got to have thousands of dollars of tech, or no one's going to come to your event. That's the assumption people have. And you're saying, no, that's completely untrue. You don't need none of that. It's making sure that you have the content, that you are seen as a human being. When things happen, call it out, and just go with it. Have fun, because this is what people want to see. They want to see the human on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, it's so true. There's a woman who shall remain nameless, so I cannot violate any confidences, but she did like $5 million from her desk in her home office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, really, now there's others that have done millions on. I mean, well, Tony Robbins has like a $10 million stage in circle green thing 360, and you've got another stage in Vegas that I forget the guy's name right now. He's the guy behind the GoPro brand for not the camera, but the MLM trainings. I forget his name all of a sudden, but I think he spent like $20 million on his set, on his studio.
Wow.
Multiple computers, and I mean, literally a whole in the round theater. It's incredible. And $20 million, are you crazy? He sold 30 million in his first event. Holy mackerel, right? I mean, it's pretty amazing. So he's already ROI, but you don't have to do that. That's the stuff that gets everybody all excited. But I'll tell you what, you can have a digital room with 10 people in it and make $100,000 in 2 days.
Right.
Kevin Nations has been doing stuff like that for years, not digitally, physically, but I'm sure he's transitioned. I mean, this is nothing new. So what I teach people to do is to get out of that mindset of let's impress. It's like PowerPoints. And in this book that I'm reading right now, the guy's talking about when you have all those fancy transitions, he says in his book, we know you're an amateur because pros don't need that stuff.
Right.
The more you have, the more words you have, the more fancy schmancy stuff, the more you're relying on that. And it simply says you don't have what it takes yourself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's really true. I stopped doing all the fancy stuff, with the sizzle and the this and that. It's like, nobody cares. Right. Nobody cares. Nobody does care, because what they're coming for is for transformation. Now, that word gets so overused, but they're coming to change where they are. They're coming for the knowledge that you're going to give them. And yes, if you give them great knowledge, they will follow you. You could be as boring as hell, but they'll stick with you.
Yeah.
They'll stick with you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I want to ask you, can you teach a principle that our listeners can implement straight away into their business regards building their own digital events?
No.
Excuse me, Ken? I know you can.
So yeah, I'll tell you this. The principle I think that is probably coming closest to mind right now is, and by the way, we did not rehearse this. It really is to call out your audience. So when I see somebody in there, I will call you out by name. If I see Mary Beth, I will call her out by name. If I see Tim, I will call him out by name. And it's not just, hey, Tim, but if it's someone I know, absolutely. And in a regular audience, in the old days of the physical audience, I would do it as well anyway.
Right.
And I might even stop for a second and give somebody a hug, just because I am of the huggers.
Right.
But digitally, if I see someone, I will. And even if I'm doing someone else's podcast. So I was doing an interview this morning to a bunch of speakers, and somebody walked in. Well, they showed up in Zoom, and I was like, "Hey, Susan." It's like, oh my gosh, Susan and I went to eat to Chichen Itza back in 2004, apparently, something like that, some crazy long time ago. Along with the hosts, turned out. So it was all kind of a deja vu. But when you call people out like that, a number of things happen. Number one, the person that you're calling out knows that they're seen and feels important. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the rest of the audience is like, oh shit, is he going to call on me? I better pay attention. So they're automatically engaged. So even if you have 800 people, if I'm calling on Beth and Mary Lou and Javier and this one, am I next? And it brings people to a much higher level of engagement. So it's what I do naturally now, but I will suggest to all of you that you do that. When you have somebody, there was a woman in Tokyo that we had a few months back. You may remember this because her family was absolutely stunning, gorgeous.
That's right. Yes, I forgot her name, but I remember who you're talking about. Yeah.
I forget her. It'll come to me after we finish this interview. But she was stunning. And I had to stop. I stopped and like, her husband was there, the kids were there. And I was like, you guys, you're like the perfect Christmas card right now with you and your family. Everyone check this out. And it was like Igumi or something. I forget her name, but it was so beautiful. I mean, now I want to go back and find the video just to look at it. But when that happens, it also endears you to your audience because they know you're looking. They know you're looking. Right. So I want you to let your kids come in. I want you to let the cat walk across the desk, and it looks like a shark tail. I want to see that because I get to call it out. Right. I get to include you in the dialogue. Right. And if you're eating, it's like in the old days when we were in rooms together, if people were eating in my room, I'd be like, I want to taste, bring it, And I'd say, I would. I was so cheeky. I'd be like, you can bring food anyway, but if it smells good, I want to taste. And I never did actually do that, but don't put it past me, especially if it was sweets.
Do you know what? I love the fact that at your digital events, you're actually in the kitchen making pizza for your audience.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them.
All right.
Don't tell them.
No one heard that. We're not telling them that.
That's one of those things they're not supposed to know, and they get to see like, holy crap, because it's a signature Ken move. But yeah, I do things that surprise people, and again, it's an engagement piece. But that particular thing, I will leave the rest of that for when people show up at the event, because it really is a teaching piece that's kind of, to me, kind of sacred. So don't tell them that. But I do like, I am kind of serious about that actually, because I want people to be in surprise and delight. Like, what's he going to do next? Right. And so we add things, and you see, to do something like that, just by changing, like coming from here, I'm at my dining room table right now, and I'm sitting at a bar stool. I have a standing desk. I can go up or down, so I can stand or sit, anything I want to do. But I can take the camera, move it over like 7 feet over to the left. So now I'm in the living room. All right. And then I'll do my cocktails with questions we can on the couch for my VIPs at the end of the day. So we simply change the set by moving the camera a few feet, and it brings them again into my home, into my life, right? Just as I can see you into your life if you're not using a digital background. So those things, if you wanted to do a tip, to me, it's that level of bringing them in with engagement and try and be as much fun as you can. But I'll give you one more, and that is no extra charge for this one. But on the third one, I will charge you. The big thing is this. Pardon me. People do like to be entertained, but they also need to be led. And they're not coming to your program, whatever that is, to come to a show. They're coming to change their life.
Yeah.
And so if all you're focusing on doing is entertaining and being cute and cheeky and all this sort of thing, without bringing it back, then you're cheating them, you're cheating you, and then they'll never buy from you. Right. Oh yes, a couple of them will, because they just will, but the numbers that you need to have, and the numbers that I achieve, and the numbers that my students achieve, you won't get them if you're there to play. So you can make fun, and you can, like we're being cheeky back and forth periodically, but notice what's happened. I get you to laugh, and I bring it right back to being serious.
Yes.
Because this is serious, because lives get shifted and changed. When you can get your message out to the world, change someone's life, give them hope that they can be better than they've been, show them a way to overcome economic weakness, if you will, right? That's important stuff. That changes families. It changes health. If someone can afford to get medical care because now they have extra money. I mean, just out of the blue, 2 days ago, I broke one of my front teeth, which you cheekily wanted to take a picture of. And
yes, I did. I was like, oh my God, I'm so ready for social media right now.
Like, no, you're not going to do that. No. So then now you can't tell, haha. But here's the thing. Luckily, I've got a great dentist who's a friend. But I will tell you, the cost to replace that broken crown, $1,800.
Wow.
Now, and a lot of insurance won't cover that. So an event can easily fix that in a moment.
Right. Yeah.
So I look at this as being a massive responsibility for me in terms of how I'm going to transform that audience, inspire them to have the confidence to know that they are worth more than they ever thought.
Right.
Put that value, that question we talked about earlier, to put that value in place so that they're like, well, hell yeah, I can charge $10,000 for what I know for a year or a 6-month program or $20,000 or whatever. Hell, my program's 50 grand.
Yeah.
You know, we're not fooling around, but people see a clear way to get to over $500,000.
Right.
So would you like a 10x return on your money? Yeah. So I can make that off, right? So I can make that offer going, yeah, it's 50 grand. You want $500,000? Come on, let's go do it.
Right.
You know, I want people to have that level of confidence so that when they make their offer, if people say no to that offer, you're going to think that they need counseling, that something is wrong, that the offer is so good that if they say no, something is absolutely wrong with them. They are stupid people, right? Now, granted, you know, or mentally unstable. Something's wrong with the people if they say no to you. You know, now, obviously, some people, it's not the right time. They're middle of a divorce. They've got 7 other programs. You know, there's obviously other reasons, but I want you to have the comfort level and the confidence level of knowing that what you have is so good, you're giving it away for such a great deal, so that there's no doubt in your mind that you can make a shift and help people out. That's important. And that's what I look at. So absolutely make sure your audience is having fun. I mean, have fun, but bring it back. It's almost like catching a fish. You know, when a fish catches the line, you let it out, you snap it back. You let it out, you snap it back. When you're trying to bring a fish in, that's what you're doing. Yeah. Well, that's the same thing. Don't you love good metaphors? It's the same thing when you're teaching this way. At least when I teach, it's make them laugh, just like I just did. Bring it right back in, and here's why we're laughing. Here's why it's important. So let's not let this get out of hand, boys and girls. Here's why it matters. Oh yeah, okay. And then so we give them tension. We break the tension again, but they know that I am not fooling around. No. And I've gotten more, you know, this is an evolution, of course. I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm now only 32 years old. So some of the math is messed up, but you know, I think I'm young. My body is not necessarily. Well, those damn things you have to like disclose. Sort of sucks when you write down over 60, but you do get the senior discounts, which is really great. It's really awesome. But the thing is, like, when you make a joke like that, right? It's awesome. Let them laugh and then bring it back. Make the point. Right. Make the point. So that wins. Go ahead.
I love that. Now, I feel like this is the perfect time to ask you, do you have a couple of success stories you can share with us that you've had with your clients? I know our listeners would love to hear that.
You know, all I got to tell you is number one, you are a success story. You are, and you're following. It's funny because I'm listening to these questions, which I did not give you, by the way. Yeah, these are the questions I would have given you, but I know exactly where you got them from. Because they're the questions that I teach, which I got from my buddy Joel Bauer. That came from one of our Pride bonuses, the Commando podcast system. I know, which is a multi-$1,000 bonus we can give people from our event. So success story, totally, you are using what you've been taught, and I couldn't be more proud of you. So yes, you are I know that was a great setup and it wasn't planned, but it's really true. You are. But I mean,
Thank
because
you.
listen, you've got this great podcast company that you're doing. You're putting on this particular podcast, which is amazing. You're helping people all over the planet. You're now from your client base, from people that you're consulting with on the sales element, you're bringing on new clients left and right. And I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. It's like, and this is no BS that we're doing publicly. This is like, I'm really proud of you. So yeah, clearly you. I have others that I can go down the pike. You know, I've got one woman who did her first event. It was a one-day event, a couple weeks after, I think, coming to Pride, and she made $18,000 in her first event, and she did it like so wrong. I mean, you know, she just like so wrong. Yeah, it was like, really, but we fixed it. You know, we fixed it just a little bit in time. Then we have Kelly Filardo. She's about to do her fourth event in another few days, actually, and in her first event, we sat down just before the first event was to take place. And because what I like to do with people is, most people do like debriefs of things, and that's great. But debrief after you've had your baby doesn't exactly help you with birth control, you know? So it's like, let's stop it before you mess it up. So I require my students to do a pre-brief with me, to get with me a few weeks before the event, so we can go through the model, see what you plan, see what you're looking to have as guests, where you place them, and so on and so forth. And she had a mess. I mean, it was not optimized. Let's put it that way. And so we put it all in the right order. And she did, in her first event, she did $50,000 in sales, first event. She did $50,000 in sales in her second event. She did $70,000 in sales on her third event with far fewer people. She didn't fill the room up that much, but she converted so much better because she followed the structure that I taught her. And now we're doing event number 4, all this within a year, by the way. We're doing event number 4 in a few days, few weeks. It's this month sometime. And I'm speaking at it, of course. She likes having me come speak. And I like it too, because I get to sell something on the stage. But, you know, I couldn't be prouder of people like Kelly. Yeah. So it's really kind of awesome. We have others who've done small events and have closed 33% of their room. You know, so a lot of my folks, they're not doing giant events where they're making millions. They're doing smaller events that are manageable, making hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, but that is your MO, keeping it small and intimate, right? Really connecting with people. So, I mean, that's really important, because a lot of people like to have thousands of people at their event, right? But that's not necessary. You can still make an obscene amount of money from having a very small event, but making sure you connect with them.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's a combination of factors. You know, I would love everyone to make obscene amounts of money, and that's wonderful. But I'll tell you, when you get to having over a few hundred people at an event, it's difficult, at least in my view, to get the level of intimacy. You can, but if you're going to go to a Tony Robbins event with 20,000 people, you're not going to get the same thing. You're not going to get to have a dialogue with Tony. You know, if you're coming to my events, you get to talk to me. And because I like having the smaller numbers, you know, it feeds my heart. And we talk about accidents, you know, my numbers are always small by design, but also even when I'm like, I want more, the universe, I'm telling you, is like, no, Ken, we know what your heart wants, and your heart wants smaller numbers. I can tell the difference energetically in a physical room between 50 and 70 people. Makes a difference. Between 50 people one week, I had 70 people the next week, and I got paid more with the 70 because I got paid per head, number of people in the room. And even though I made more money, I didn't have the same amount of fun. It wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. I like an audience where I can have that dialogue, where if I can be cheeky to somebody and get away with it, you know,
right? Yeah.
You know, and where we have fun with them, and that's fun for me. But yes, we convert better for sure. You know, so you don't have to have the big numbers. I'm teaching people now to run events with 10 to 15 people.
Right.
It's a simple model.
Yeah.
And you won't close 20%. You'll probably close 30 to 40% of them, because the intimacy is there. And are you okay with making $40,000 in a day?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, hello.
Sure.
You know, for some people it's like, oh, it's a lousy day. Well, get over yourself. 40,000 is more than you had before you started this morning. So shut up. For some people, it's more than they made in an entire year. So you don't have to have big numbers to make big numbers.
Right. You
just have the confidence to know that what you have works. And that's pretty much what I teach. You know, I would say that a big chunk of what, and this is probably the secret I probably shouldn't let out, but I think one of the big things that that Pride teaches people to do is to value themselves in a way that's bigger than they ever thought possible. You know, we have 3 days with them, and you work this event with me, you know, this event. And to me, I think the biggest thing, aside from teaching them how to fill the event, how to get them to show up, and how to get them to stay, and how to get them engaged, and how to close from the stage, and all the things that they need to know how to do an event with, the mechanics and technology and all that stuff, and how to even craft the offer. I think the biggest thing that they walk away with is a vision as they can do this, is that they can come in a technological moron, right? Without expensive technology, you know, with an old crappy laptop, you know, and if they have a message to share, they can turn the message into cash.
Right.
Really in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
So that's
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And do you know what? I had a feeling, and I've got to put you on here, Ken, and just say, like, this is meant to be a 30-minute podcast, but I knew, speaking with you, this was going to be much longer than 30 minutes. And anyone that knows you knows that there's so much information you're going to share. 30 minutes just is not going to be enough, right?
Yeah. It happens. The only way you can keep me on a 15-minute call, we schedule a lot of 15-minute calls, is by booking up calls one next to the other. So I don't have a choice, but I have to get up the phone. Otherwise, I have calls that last. It's like, I had one person, we did a call, and I was kind of doing an intervention, and I had to be somewhere else. I'm like, I'm not done with you. You better schedule a call for me tomorrow. We got to finish this, because this person needed to be energized. And we did. We came back the next day and we finished up the thing, just because, you know, it's like, pardon, you've got to take care of people. You know, you just got to do that. And you know, it's not even about money. It's about serving, you know,
Right.
And to me, I have fun serving. Now, don't everybody listening get the idea that Ken's going to get on a call with you for free. That ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have clients that have said, I'm committed, then I will match that commitment. I won't be more committed than you. That's too painful for me. But if you're committed, I will match your level of commitment, because that's what inspires me.
Right. And this is one of the reasons why I have stuck around with you for so many years, because you are a giver, right? And you do love serving your community. And that's so apparent. And guys, you know, when you go to his event, you will see this in front of your eyes. You will see how much Ken loves to serve. Now, at this point, Ken, I know people are saying, well, how do I get to your event? Where can I find Ken? Right. So please let our listeners know where they can go to connect with you.
That's a hell of a good question. I don't remember, because we put it together only about 30 minutes ago, and I don't remember what we did. So we'll have you put it in the podcast notes.
Yes, I'm definitely going to put it in the show notes. Yeah. So guys, if you scroll down, take a look at the links, right? Go to it. You'll be able to connect with Ken, but he also has something special for you. Please explain, Ken, what that special gift is.
I will be happy to do that for you. Have I got a deal for all of you people? Come here, let's talk about it.
Here he goes.
Get closer. Come on, we'll talk. I'll have my girl talk to your girl. All right, so here's what we've done. And by the way, I do teach people to not give their website address on a podcast. I teach people to not do that. I teach people to have it all in the show notes. Why? Because first of all, if you're running right now and you're listening to this while you're doing your laps in the morning or something, or if you're in the car on the way to work, you're not going to remember what I tell you anyway. You'll remember that, yes, I got to do Ken's event. It's great. Who is this crazy guy she's talking to? But when you get to your destination, your home or whatever, you'll go into the show notes. You'll go look up in the podcast. And who is Ken? This Ken guy. Who is he? Ken Krell. Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Wait, where's the link? Oh, here it is. And that's where you'll find it. So, and how do I know that? Because firsthand, when Jim's first got closed a few years back, due to things, I started running, which I'm not good at by any means. And I'm listening to these great podcasts, and they're giving their addresses. I'm like, I'm running, for God's sakes. I'm panting, out of breath. I can die on the street. I don't know, but I went back and I was able to find it on the show notes. So that's the practicality of it. We created a Join Pride /something, and I forget what we called it.
USP, Uncensored Society Podcast. That's
exactly. Right. So joinpride.com/USP, Uncensored Society Podcast. Anyway, so here's the scoop. for those of you that actually want to come to this Pride experience, which sold out when we first offered it for $2,000, and the website still, you can still buy it for $2,000. And if you do buy it that way, don't ask for a refund, because I ain't doing that, because it costs us money to do the refund. It's like $80 to refund that thing.
Right.
But if you want to come, it's really crazy. But if you want to come as Kay's guest, then you'll use the link that we've delivered to you in the show notes, joinpride.com/USP, right? Which also does stand for unique selling proposition, by the way, in sales lingo. But joinpride.com/USP. It'll take you to the page, and it will give you an invitation to join Pride absolutely free. There is one catch, however. When we do an event and we have 100 people, 200 people, whatever it is, let's say they want to come, we bring in a team. I pay Kay to come in and do coaching and do strategic coaching.
Right. Yeah.
And she's there to serve. I bring in someone else and we bring in more.
Yeah.
And if the numbers aren't there, I got people that I paid to be there that aren't performing, as Kay well knows. So if you say you're going to come. And so to that end, we're going to have you deliver a $49 refundable seat reservation. When you show up at the event and you participate, we will be delighted to give you that money back, no problem. Okay, easy peasy. Day 3, we process plenty of refunds. If you do show up, great. If you don't show up, we're going to keep the money as the default, because we got to pay for this sort of stuff. So it's just a means of actually having people maintain integrity. So we'll do that. So come for free. The seat reservation is fully refundable. So effectively, you show up, then it'll be great. Now, by the way, if you can't make this upcoming event, we do it a few times a year, and the dates will be on the website, because I'm not sure when you're listening to this, so I won't put it into our conversation here, but it'll be on. We'll update it through the website. If you need to push it to the next event, no problem with it. Just let us know before the event, and we're happy to. It's like an airline. We can change your ticket, but you can't change the ticket after the flight. Right. So if you change it before then, my team will be delighted to shift it over if the dates aren't convenient for you. But you'll get all 3 solid days of the event, and you're getting that basic ticket. If you want upgraded VIP, that's an additional surcharge. Well worth it, by the way. VIP is phenomenally worth it. It's worth multiple thousands of dollars. And that's the nature of the beast. So come as our guest, enjoy that experience as my gift to you. You will love this. And if you're thinking 3 days, yeah, Tony Giddles came for, her intention was to come for like just the morning of day 1, and she had other plans for the weekend. Well, by the time the morning was over, she's like, screw the rest of the weekend, I'm staying here. And she stayed for the entire time and joined our $50,000 safari program.
Yeah, and you know what, that's happened a few times with a lot of people that have come on board, right, and come to the event. They've kind of not had the intention to stay there the entire time, and they're like, no, screw this, forget everything else, I'm staying here, right? Which just shows you that, it's so worthwhile, because they're getting entertained, they're getting education, they're getting value, and they're able to transform their lives and their businesses. So guys, make sure you attend Pride. You have to be there, right? It's nothing like any other event that's out there, and you actually see how Ken creates a digital event in front of your very eyes. How he does it, he explains every step of the way, right? There's no event out there that does that. So make sure you scroll down and you get yourself registered and attend the next event. Ken, it was such a pleasure to have you on this podcast. So many golden nuggets. We can talk on forever, right? I know you can. You can definitely talk on
we usually do. We have to put a timer on it. But I want to acknowledge you and thank you. And you guys, I tell you what, you have such a treat in your host here. Kay is phenomenal. She's, as my friend Joel Bauer would say, she is a heart with appendages. And I couldn't be more proud of you. When you talked about success stories, immediately it was like, well, hello, there you are. Yeah. So I want all of you as listeners to know how truly lucky you are. She's got great new guests coming up in the successive episodes ahead. And I'm super proud of her, and I'll acknowledge you for being with us here today as well, because if you stuck around this long, that says a lot. So either you're really nothing else to do. No, we're super glad that you're with us. And for sure, I'm looking forward to, you've seen us now, or at least heard us right now. I would love to see you and come spend 3 days with us during the Pride experience. Did we ever tell people what it stood for, by the way?
I don't think we did. No, go ahead.
Did we? I don't know if we did. Pride stands for Produce Ridiculously Irresistible Digital Events that Generate Wealth. Everything that we do has a meaning to it. Our Lodge program stands for Let's Over Deliver Great Events. Everything we do, Safari is Success Activating Freedom, and I forget the rest of it. But everything's true, I do. But everything that we do has a meaning to it, and it's super fun. So anyway, looking forward to meeting you guys. And Kay, it's a great way to help you start your day and conclude mine.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you once again, Ken.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your time and listening to Uncensored Society podcast. All resources mentioned throughout the episode will be added to the show notes, and you'll be able to find them at the bottom as you scroll down. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Thank you once again.